Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Australian Mortgage Innovation Summit for 2021. A big thank you again to our sponsors for our conference, Nuclear Software, Purcell Partners LexTech, Equifax, NextGen.net, CoreLogic, Ulula, Finder.com.au and Pega. To kick us off today, we have a fantastic keynote from executive from NAB, from home ownership, Andy Kerr. And this keynote will really be talking to us about digital, making it human. So welcome to the virtual stage, Andy Kerr from NAB. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andy Kerr, and I'm the executive for home ownership at NAB. I'm delighted to be joining you at the RFI Australian Mortgage Innovation Summit for 2021. Now, today, I'm keen to talk to you about 3 things. Firstly, how 2020 reshaped the bank's relationships with customers and communities. Secondly, how 2020 changed the game in terms of what customers now want and expect. And then finally, how these shifts are changing things for the long term. In particular, home ownership support beyond digital servicing to build deeper customer relationships. So firstly, how banks have changed the game for communities and customers. And I'll start with my story. And this is one of the few pictures of me as a child. I wore glasses till the age of 4. So this is the only picture of me that exists with glasses until recently when in my older age, my reading failed me. And as you'll tell from my accent, I'm not Australian born and bred. I was born and raised in a small town in Northern Ireland called Strabane. And Strabane was famous for 2 things when I grew up. The first was it was the most bombed town in Europe. I was raised during the time commonly known as the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And Strabane had a fairly challenging time there. The second thing that it was renowned for was it had the highest unemployment rate in Europe. And what I observed when I was younger was the role of the bank and the bank manager in particular in supporting my community when the times were tough. And years later, as I reflected why I had a passion for banking and why I loved it so much, I kind of realized that what I observed and what went on in my childhood, seeing a bank and the bank manager supporting my community and customers and friends and family that I had, was seeing that how the bank helped people in tough times so that they could prosper in the better times. And so there it was years later, I realized why I love banking and felt such a pride in what we do to support customers. So if we then fast forward to Australia and banking's rapid pivot to COVID, 2020 was a year where banks moved rapidly to support customers and communities in their time of need. And I was really proud that NAB moved with pace and clear purpose to support business and personal customers. Now, at the time the pandemic hit in March last year, I was in the business bank, leading teams supporting NAB's business customers. I got to witness a whole enterprise move to remote working and a really clear external focus overnight. Everyone wanted to do anything and everything to help customers who were in shock, confused, and were looking for support and direction. And on the back of horrific bushfires, it was another great example of a bank's purpose. In NAB's case, serving customers well and helping communities prosper. And we know that trust in banks and business more broadly has risen over the last 12 months, given the response to pandemic, as well as natural disaster. So on the road to recovery through the pandemic, we adapted quickly to the changing needs of our customers, providing digital improvements and moving fast to ensure more than 32,000 colleagues could work remotely, outside of the office, and in most cases from home. At the center of our response in home lending, and that of the whole industry, was support in the form of loan deferrals, which provided much needed relief and time to customers who were impacted. Last year, we granted more than 110,000 payment deferrals with balances over $40 billion for our customers. And now We have as little as 4,300 home loan accounts deferred, with balances of just 2.2 billion. It's great to see most of our customers have already resumed payments. However, we are aware some will need and will continue to get our ongoing assistance. And recent challenges locally, clusters, border closures, etc., and globally, third waves, complex distribution of vaccines, show uncertainty is going to prevail into 2021 and beyond. And while the recent challenges have not driven an increase in customers requiring assistance, we stand ready to provide support to all our customers based on their individual circumstances. Our clarity of purpose prevails. I'd now like to talk about some of the home buying shifts which we've observed through 2020. During the pandemic, we've seen two notable changes in the home lending market: the rise of the first home buyer and surging demand in regional Australia and the outer suburbs. On the first point, first home buyers have entered the market at levels not seen for a decade. This is something we've been proud to support, both as a lender in the government's first home lending deposit scheme, where we've helped more than 4,000 customers into their first home, and also through lender mortgage insurance, LMI, discounts. In NABs case, the first quarter of 2020, first home buyers represented 11% of home loans. By the final few months of 2020, it was up to 17%. That represents a dramatic shift in a very short space of time. Now, the key drivers of surging first home buyer activity include government incentives. As I've mentioned, we've seen firsthand the value of the first home loan deposit scheme, while home builder and state schemes are having a positive impact as well. The other trend is improved housing affordability due to the brief dip in property prices and, more notably, record low rates. Rates below 2% were almost unfathomable just 2 years ago. So as a result, many first home buyers are telling us they are buying their dream home years earlier than they expected. And we expect this demand to be strong throughout 2020, especially given the current conditions making buying cheaper than renting for many prospective first-time homeowners. And the other key trend we're seeing is a shift to regional areas and outer suburbs, with many customers wanting more space and the home office becoming more critical than ever. Australians, and particularly first home buyers, are increasingly drawn to the idea of a move away from the city as commute times become less of a factor. There's also every reason to believe the demand for areas further from the city centre for lifestyle reasons will persist, as more flexible working arrangements for many Australians tempt a sea or a tree change. Some of the most popular locations we've seen include in New South Wales, Sydney's west with its easy access to Blue Mountains, as well as the Central Coast and quality beaches. In Victoria, Geelong, a near end of train line in Melbourne's outer west and southeast, where some of the state's best beaches are a relatively short drive away. In Queensland, we've seen a shift to Townsville, Coomera and Ipswich. In South Australia, the north of Adelaide and places like Oakden, while Morphett Vale near the McLaren Vale is also popular. The shift's less noticeable in WA, where house prices have been muted for some time, but there's plenty of strength in regional locations, for example, mining-driven Kalgoorlie and coastal Geraldton. At the same time, customer behaviour is changing in terms of what Australians are looking for when purchasing property. So too are expectations of their bank, and the pandemic served to accelerate this. For a retail bank like NAB, one of the obvious shifts with lockdowns in place was fewer people coming into branches and a really sharp uplift in digital banking. In the first lockdown, over-the-counter transactions were down over 40% overall, and as much as 80% in some city branch locations. In contrast, we saw record numbers of customers using online banking, and now more than 93% of customer interactions are either online or over the phone. Through this time, we've been making it easier for people to engage with us digitally, with examples including live chat and video appointments. In our NAB app, home lending customers can now complete a fixed rate rollover, reprice, or vary key aspects of their home line at a time that suits them, just with a click of a button. And we've also made it possible to work out how much equity you have in your property and your next options, all available to view in the NAB app. These changes have been significant. Customers want and expect anywhere, anytime banking, and we continue to make changes to meet and hopefully exceed their expectations. As digital adoption picks up, it's critical we find ways to retain the personal touch in home lending. Given this, for me, video has perhaps been the biggest game changer for the home lending experience in the last 12 months, and how it has rapidly found a way to complement existing physical and digital channels. Now, I'm an early adopter. In 2003, if you can remember that far back, I was an early joiner of the 3 network, the first cutting edge superfast 3G network in Australia. 3G, I hear you say? Resplendent with 2 Motorola flip phones, I was able to make video calls, which were super grainy, super slow calls to my wife and to my newborn child when I was traveling around Australia. Then there was the iPhone, then 4G, now 5G and the NBN, and boom, COVID struck, and Zoom or WebEx or Teams, whichever you use, changed everything. Overnight, it became normal for everything to be done online and over video. We even had Zoom house parties and drink catch-ups with friends in lockdown until the rest of Australia opened up and it was just us poor folks in Melbourne who were left calling each other for drinks. So how is this impacting the home buying experience? Home buying is a process which through digital and data is getting easier and easier for customers to support themselves. However, most customers want and need support during the home buying process. It's an emotional experience and large amounts of money are changing hands, so they want to get it right. Human support has often meant waiting days or weeks to get an appointment with a banker or a broker. During COVID, we implemented an online booking tool and transitioned a large number of our colleagues to video support. And we're now seeing over a third of our customers choose video support. With an appointment booking tool, a customer can request an appointment at a time and place that suits them, ideally within an hour of a customer seeking help. This gives the immediacy of a traditional call center-based support model with a much more personal touch of a face-to-face appointment with a banker at a branch or at a customer's home. As you look around the world, some banks are reporting over 80% of their appointments are now taking place by video. And with the outlook for full return to face-to-face still uncertain, I'm pretty sure this is a shift that will stay. The other benefit is that with data, we're now much better positioned to find the best person to support customers based on a number of factors which are most important to them. Speed, location, skills such as investment lending or first home buying, and customers are loving it. For me, speed is the most important thing. I'm not a very patient person. And yesterday, I was able to go into the appointment booking tool and find a banker available to meet my needs in the next 30 minutes. Something like this was just not achievable pre-COVID. So we expect these rapid changes of customer and corporate behavior to prevail and endure. Specifically, 1, the radical transformation of the home buying experience. Digital, simple, and fast, including the rise of video to complement existing physical and digital channels. Secondly, we see the renaissance of the first home buyer and stronger demand for outer suburbs and regional areas. So how have these shifts changed things for the long term? As I've touched on, speed and certainty are big drivers of what is typically an emotional home buying experience, particularly for those who've never bought a house before. Yet today's experience is still riddled with requests for lots of information, lots of paper-based verification, which is increasingly challenging in a pandemic-based virtual world. lots of delays as more information is required and chased down, and endless rework as manual judgment leads to litigation and relitigation of decisions. The end result is often 5 to 10 days to reach an unconditional decision, and a really fraught journey for a customer as they pursue the great Australian dream of owning a home. So, accelerated by behavior changes through the pandemic, we're seeing some key themes emerge which are helping drive a faster, more certain experience for customers. Firstly, digital self-serve for home ownership is gathering a real head of steam, underpinned by analytics and insights to more proactively manage customer experience. Secondly, the ability to leverage data capabilities to automate everything. Thirdly, open banking is going to be a game changer in unlocking immediate approvals for all customers. And finally, while customers are willing to do more themselves, support from a banker or broker is only ever a click away, same day. As a result, we're now approaching a period of near real-time unconditional decision, something which has been possible for a small number of customers historically, but which is increasingly becoming commonplace. We are turning the process on its head and assuming a 60-minute unconditional approval should be the norm, and challenging or automating everything that gets in its way. This means a customer should always have a decision when they meet with a banker or a broker, giving certainty to put in an offer on a home or bid at an auction in a way that has just not been possible for most customers until now. To some extent, it's delivering a fintech style experience at scale. Now, by the end of September, we at NAB anticipate providing unconditional approval in under an hour for around 30% of our home loans. And by the end of this year, customers will be able to perform over 95% of all servicing on the NAB app. But even more importantly, the NAB app will surface insights and nudge the customer to act when it is in their best interest to do so. Everything is completed immediately in real time. No need to check up to see if something has been actioned after 3 to 5 days, ultimately freeing up bankers and brokers to do the thing which is most important for the customer, help them when they need advice and support. We'll also begin to see the promise of open banking, something many are still on the fence about. For me, the home buying experience is one where the reward of an instant decision and the certainty that provides to a customer is enough to overcome any inertia about providing banking credentials to a trusted banker or broker. And while it's one of a few bets I think people should be placing, increasingly, I think we will see customers valuing the speed and ease it brings to the home buying process. No more downloading or scanning of pages and pages of bank statements to help a bank construct your financial position. Just log on with your credentials and let the bank do the rest for you. While the potential is clear, we do expect it will take time for customers to develop familiarity, trust, and understanding in using open banking. And we're focused on ensuring the safety and security of customer information. With the dramatic changes in capability and expectations we're seeing now, I expect that in the next 2 to 3 years, almost all servicing will be nudged and initiated by the bank based on customer behavior and for the most part completed by the customer online. The near real-time unconditional approval will become the status quo, underpinned by open banking. And video support will continue to accelerate as the immediacy and human connection it brings bank or broker and customer together when it counts. This is to say nothing of broader topics that will impact property markets for decades to come, including the long-term impacts of climate change and new and evolving property ownership models, each of which could be a subject of a speech in their own right. Hopefully, I've been able to highlight to you the long-lasting effects of 2020, the year that everything changed, when customer relationships were reshaped, expectations shifted, and new possibilities emerged. Through the pandemic, banks took the opportunity to do what they must always do: serve customers well and help communities prosper. First home buyers came back in droves, and perceptions of the great Australian dream shifted away from the city for many. And we realized how banks could help their customers evolve. In particular, a shift in customer expectations as the digital experience became even more paramount, and video quickly complemented existing physical and digital channels. While we see customers doing more and more themselves digitally today, the home buying and ownership journeys are such that customers sometimes just need some advice from a friendly face when things get confusing or scary. The transformation of human interactions through COVID and the rise of video as a very normal way of interacting with each other allows human support to be just a click away whenever a customer needs us most. And our technology solutions are focused on ensuring that a customer and a banker or broker can always see and share the same information over video, no matter where the customer is in the process. Through all the challenges of the last year, the home buying experience has undoubtedly seen change that will be enduring. With the acceleration of a fast, simpler digital experience underpinned by a virtual human touch. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to talk with you today. I hope I've been able to answer your questions as we've gone along today. In the meantime, please reach out and stay connected with me on LinkedIn, and enjoy the rest of the Mortgage Innovation Summit for 2021. Cheers.
Thank you, Andy. What a great way to start our day off. Up next, we have another great panel focusing on lending leaders with key speakers from ANZ, Bendigo and Adelaide, Newcastle Permanent, and another guest speaker from our great sponsors from Pega. And well, after that, we'll be going to our morning tea. So welcome to the stage, Kate, the moderator for this upcoming panel.